Welcome to the InPowered Life podcast,
a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston, and this is InPowered Life. Welcome to the InPowered Life podcast. You're joined by your hosts, Rudi and Anniston Riekstins.
We are so excited about this podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. And the topic today is one that is a very common topic between Rudi and I and in our household, and that is around sleep. Now, that probably doesn't sound like the most exciting topic on the planet, and certainly not very sexy or very fun. But what we want to do today is to speak to you about how we perceive sleep, the importance of sleep, and the journey that we've taken to get here. And I will tell you that it has absolutely shifted everything in our lives because we value sleep more than a lot of things, and for good reason. And that's what we want to talk about today.
So we're going to give you the value and the importance in understanding the purpose of sleep. And then what is the cost in not getting a good night's sleep? You know, as a high performance guy, I understand that for anybody to be able to do anything, they need to understand what's in it for them. Like, if I'm going to go to the trouble to do this thing, what am I going to gain from doing that thing? But the only way somebody's going to do it is if they understand, first and foremost, what do they stand to gain? And then secondly, what would be the cost of them not doing that thing that we're now saying you should do? And again, looking at this from a high performance lens, I've always been somebody who just enjoyed to get a good night's sleep. I never felt great if I got less than 8 hours. And I would go to bed early. I remember being in my 20s. I was living with my brother. We'd bought this incredible place together. And he would be up at night and he would say, "Come on, man, let's hang out. Let's play pool and let's do these." And I would be like, "No, I've got to go to bed because I want to feel good when I wake up tomorrow morning to go to work to be able to function." And he used to laugh at me and call me all these ridiculous names because I would go to bed early and I valued how I would feel the next morning over the good time I would be able to have shooting pool with my brother and our friends. And so I want to add on to that from the lens now of somebody who understands the power and the benefit of sleep. Every single person on the planet is sleeping a certain number of hours every single night. And the function of sleep is obviously to give your body a break. It's for rest. It's for rejuvenation. This is where your body repairs itself. Your body is producing a tremendous amount of cells that actually combat all of the ailments that come up throughout the day. Most notably, and I want to put a caveat in, by no means am I a doctor, and nor do I understand this in great depths, but I know enough to know what I need to do to be able to protect my body and to be able to say to you, like, this is something that you should be aware of. And so your body is producing these cells every single night when you sleep. And some of these cells' responsibility is to combat the cancer cells that are being produced in your body every single day. Every person on the planet produces the same cells that create and cause cancer. But when you get a good night's sleep, the body then produces these cells, it fights and combats it, and keeps it at bay. But so few people acknowledge or understand the value in why you should get a certain amount of sleep, why there should be measured sleep. And so if you're listening to this episode today, I want you to first start by asking yourself, how many hours a day are you getting? Are you a 4-hour-a-night person and you tell people, "Oh, I only need 4 hours because I'm a high performer and I want to get things done"? Do you sleep 6 hours because that's all you can do to fit everything into your day? Or are you somebody who religiously gets 8 hours? And then on the other end of that, I want to just add, are you somebody who oversleeps? Are you getting 9, 10, 11 hours a day? Because that also has profound ramifications. As we start the episode, I want to mention 2 research studies that I came across that really inspired this episode. And Anniston and I have been talking about wanting to bring this onto the podcast because we're talking about the empowered life. We're talking about how do you live the life to be the most empowered version of you. But if you don't get good sleep and if your body's not healthy and your body's not healing, it's going to have a knock-on effect and you're not going to feel very motivated and excited the next day. And so there was a research study done in England with 90,900 people, 90,900 people. And this research study was done over a period of 14 years where they tracked what people ate, what they did, doctor's visits, any ailments that they might have had, and then ultimately, if somebody died, what was the cause of death for each of these people. Part of the study was also looking into how many hours a day did they sleep and what was the quality of the sleep that they were getting. And at the end of this 14-year study, they determined that people that slept 8 hours a day consistently, they actually had 20% less risk of heart attack, disease, cardiac arrest. There were all of these health benefits just from being able to get a fixed number, of hours of sleep. When I read that study, I was like, that's fascinating. But a lot of people are going to say, well, 20% for 8 hours every single night over a period of 14 years, that sounds like a lot. And how do we manage or maintain that on a day-to-day basis? I travel a lot. Anniston travels a lot. We have a robust schedule. And so sometimes we'll get on a plane, we'll fly somewhere, and we're going to be speaking the next morning, or we've got a meeting the next morning, or there's something happening, and you don't get the best night's sleep. You're in a hotel. You're lying awake till midnight. And so what is the cost of somebody who does get their 8 hours of sleep every single day, and then they fall off the wagon, so to speak, and they get a 4-hour night or a 6-hour night, or in the case of the study I'm about to mention to you, 7 hours. So they did a research study in the US where they looked at all of these different individuals that were consistently getting 8 hours of sleep every single night. And then they looked at what was the drop in the cell production that prevented cancer if somebody missed 1 hour of sleep within a 7-day period. So if somebody slept for 3 or 4 days straight, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and then on the next day, they had a 6-hour or a 7-hour sleep, they saw a massive decrease in the production of these cells, enough to raise alarms, medically speaking. They also noticed in the same study that there was an increase by 21% for heart attacks, cardiac arrest, and major illnesses like stroke that people would experience every single time we have a time change in the US. And I want you to think about that. So when we go into spring and the time changes and we gain an hour, we lose an hour, then as we lose that, so we gain that hour's sleep, then there was a drop in the number of heart attacks by 21%. There was a drop in stroke, 21%, cardiac arrest, 21%, all at the same period. But then it counter-corrected itself when we got to the fall back and we lost that hour. Then there's a 21% increase in every one of those categories. And that is just when we lose 1 hour of sleep over that week to be able to create that adjustment. And so as we talk about sleep today, I really want you to think about the benefit of why should you consistently manage your sleep schedule and give yourself and your body the 8 hours so that you can function.
I've had an interesting relationship with sleep growing up. I mean, I've always slept well. I mean, ever since I was little, I didn't have issues with sleeping. I got really good sleep. Obviously, in my 20s, I don't feel like I needed as much sleep. I know for sure I didn't get as much as I should. But it really didn't become a big thing for me and take up a lot of my thought until we had kids. And man, all it takes is going through a period where you're not getting very much sleep or good quality sleep to really start to appreciate sleep and to understand just how important it is for overall functioning in your body. To be in a physical body, there's a couple of things that you absolutely have to have, right? You have to have water. You have to be able to hydrate your body. Your body cannot live without it. You will die without water. You need to have food. Now, you can go without food for a lot longer than you can without water, but you will eventually need to fuel your body. But the other thing that you absolutely cannot live without, with the exception of oxygen, is sleep. In fact, you can't go very long without sleep before your body starts to systematically shut down, your brain stops functioning properly, and all you have to ask is a mother or a father who is going through, trying to sleep train their infant or their toddler for some people, and just how hard it is to function in life. And so when Rudi and I were going through that period, and our kids are pretty pretty close in age. They were like 18 months difference between the two. So it kind of felt like we had twins. We were in that stage, I feel like, at the same time with them for a while, especially when we had two of them. And at the same time, Rudi and I have a big vision. We have a big dream for our life. We don't live small lives. Like, we were at the same time wanting to write books. We were coaching, we had things outside of even our day job. Both of us were working full time, but we didn't want to give up on those things. But what we came to realize is that unless we were prioritizing and figuring out ways to optimize our sleep, and to use sleep as the tool that it is, that there was no way that we were going to be able to not only just function as our best selves, not getting angry at each other, losing our tempers at each other. I mean, that's what happens when you're tired. When you're tired, the smallest little additional task can feel monumental. It can be the thing that throws you over the edge. I'm not surprised to hear the stats that Rudi just talked about in terms of heart attacks and strokes, because think about it. When you're exhausted and it's exhaustion over a set amount of time, you lose your ability to have your emotional intelligence, if you will. Parts of your brain aren't working properly. You're highly emotional. And it's very hard to find the equilibrium. And I feel like what happens is we will prioritize our physical body, in terms of our overall physical fitness. And we go to the gym, we look at what we're eating, we make sure we're drinking enough water. But I still think, and that it's that sleep part that a lot of people, it's this perception of it's something that we have to do, but I don't have enough time to sleep, or they'll go to bed late. They'll prioritize, watching Netflix for 3 hours, and then they'll go to sleep after midnight, get 5-6 hours and say, yeah, it's fine. If I'm a little tired, this is life. This is what it is. Not understanding the true impact that it's having on their health. And alternatively, also not understanding the impact that just those extra couple of hours would make in someone's life. If you are not in a healthy, vital, like a healthy body full of vitality, full of energy, then how on earth are you going to achieve your highest and greatest?
So many people I speak to, especially in business, will say they don't have time to get their 8 hours of sleep. There's too many things that they have going on. They need to achieve this. They sit at home with the laptop on their lap doing their emails so they can clear out their inbox, or they're working on that presentation or tweaking the deck. And they do that until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, go to sleep so that they know they can get a good night's sleep because that's now off their mind because it's been done. And then they wake up in the morning and they start over. There was a article I read that was done on a research study, and I don't have the specifics around it, so I'm going to give you a range so that I'm not speaking a mistruth. But there was a research study that was done within companies that created a sleep routine for their employees, meaning they said, you need to go to bed and get your 8 hours sleep. And if you track your sleep, and everybody was given these Fitbits or whatever tool that they were using to measure, and then they turned it into competitions, and you would get points and bonuses. I have a client that actually bought every single person in their company one of these measuring devices. It wasn't a Fitbit, and then also created encouraging tools for them to be able to do so, but they didn't track and or measure the sleep results. But from the article that I read, what I found that was so fascinating was they said that there was a 30 to 40% increase in productivity. Now, most people are saying, oh my gosh, I've got to get that thing done. I've got to clean my inbox at night. And if I clean my inbox at night, I'm going to get a better night's sleep because I'm no longer worrying or stressing. And that's not true. And I want to be able to give it to you in facts in a moment. And so when people went to bed and they got their 8 hours of sleep, they woke up refreshed. They woke up excited. The left and the right brain were firing together. They had coherence in the brain and the body. When they went to work, they weren't stressed. They weren't irritable. They weren't frustrated. So the brain was firing on all cylinders. And so you were tapping into creative inspiration and being able to move forward in the direction of flow versus fighting the ability to try and get your brain to fire. We've spoken about it in the InPowered Life podcast repeatedly that when people go into heightened states of stress, that you lose function of the brain. Well, the same thing is true when you haven't had a good night's sleep. You also lose function of the brain. You lose the ability to access the parts of your brain that are as creative, that allow you to be able to think, strategically, critically, to be able to move forward. And so there is a tremendous amount of value that is placed on sleep. Now, I'm just coming from health and well-being right now, and then just from putting you in a state where you feel really good. Anniston said a moment ago, we want to live big lives. So we have big things that we want to do. I cannot afford, in my line of work, I cannot afford to have a bad night's sleep. I cannot afford to go to bed late because I binged watched some show that's never going to have any valuable meaning in my life, and then wake up the next morning and be tired. We stopped drinking alcohol. My reason for stopping drinking alcohol was I want 100% clarity of mind at all times. I want my brain to be working. And I noticed if I had a glass of wine or two at night, when I would wake up the next morning, I would be tired. I had restless sleep. I got up more times to go to the bathroom. My heart would start to pound in the middle of the night because the sugar was being processed from the wine. And so I would have a dull headache, not a hangover, but like a dull headache. And I could feel that. And I remember saying to her, wow, I can really feel the difference between the nights when I do and when I don't. And that was the one thing. That was the tipping point that said to me, I don't really think I need alcohol anymore. I think I'm surpassing that because my mind and the clarity of my mind is too important to me. But then the stakes were increased because now I have people paying me to come in to support their teams, or I'm coaching somebody through something in life, or I'm standing on a stage in front of an audience. And what would happen if I didn't get a good night's sleep, if I was tired, if I was sluggish, if I didn't feel like being there and doing what I needed to do? Who would miss an opportunity to have a moment because I had a glass of wine, or because I went to bed late, or because I binge watched TV? Or for most people listening to this, because you worked too late. And so I want to give you a really simple formula. And Anniston and I have applied this formula into our life as best we can. I want to caveat that, as best we can. There are times where our life or our schedule simply does not allow. But every time we deviate, we're punished and we say never again. And so here's the formula. It's the 3-2-1 rule. You need to make sure that as you go to bed, you have a bedtime routine that you can manage and you can track and that you can create consistency in. And so 3 hours before you plan to close your eyes, to turn the lights off, to go to sleep, you should no longer consume any food. So don't eat your meal, don't eat your ice cream, your dessert, your brownies. 3 hours before bedtime, your body needs time to be able to process what you're putting in. If you go to sleep, you will be woken when the body is still processing that food. So the logic stands. No more snacks, no more eating 3 hours before bed. 2 hours before bedtime. Now, this is where I said, Anniston and I sometimes, this is where we struggle. Critical thinking. You need to start turning the brain off. And, when someone says to me, man, I lie in bed and I keep thinking and thinking and thinking, I can't shut my brain down. That's the critical thinking. But if you 2 hours before bed make a rule, and Anniston and I have that rule, no more work. We don't talk about work. She can be inspired about something, an event that's coming up, something you need to do. She's going to have to make a note of that and bring it up to me tomorrow morning. We do not do critical thinking. We don't pull out a laptop and do work. And, that's where I say we sometimes fall off this, because if somebody does call you, it's an emergency and you need to quickly get to something. But that's when you're punished later and you see the dip in the quality of sleep that you get. And so the third one, which is the 3-2-1 rule. So 3 hours, no food, 2 hours, no critical thinking, no thinking about work, no thinking about shopping list. What do you have to do tomorrow? When am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Just start to slow the brain down. And then 1 hour before bedtime, no blue light. I would say probably 60, 70, 80% of the people that I speak to say this is the hardest part, because they love to come home. They want to put on TV. They want to watch something, and they just want to numb their mind. They want to numb their body.
Be on their phones.
And that blue light is activating your brain and telling your brain to be able to wake up. And so if you can turn off the phone, turn off the TV, and create the routine that Anniston really kind of forced our family into, and I will never, ever, 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 ever be able to thank her and repay her for the gift of this, because every night she would say, well, guys, it's 8 o'clock. Let's read. And I was the first one to be like, that is the least romantic thing I've ever heard. Let's get into bed and read. I don't want to read a book right now. And I want to cuddle and I want to chat to you and have pillow talk. She's like, no, I want to read right now. And we all started reading. And then the kids started reading. And now the four of us are holed up against our headboard every single night reading. And the reason I want to share this is because when you create the habit and the routine of no blue light and you pick something that's going to quiet the mind and it's going to be a novel, fiction, whatever it is that you're wanting to read, your brain is starting to slow down. But the most important part to me and why I said I will never be able to repay her for this is it's like taking a sleeping pill because your body now knows at 8 o'clock at night, we make tea. And it's chamomile tea, and it's got a honey taste to it. And the moment I sip that, my body says, oh, we're getting close to bedtime, and my eyelids start to get heavy. I start to read, and then my eyelids start to get heavy. And by the time I hit 8:30, 9 o'clock, like I am physically medicated, but I haven't taken anything because my brain says, oh, it's time to go to bed now. We're part of that bedtime routine.
So, first of all, it's not a perfect sign. I mean, what Rudi is saying, that is what we stick to. Like that is our goal. Do we hit that every night and hit the mark every night? No. I mean, of course there are times where we, are entertaining, we have company here, but even then our friends and our family can attest to this. Like we go to bed early and it's just become such a habit for us. For me, Rudi is always really quick to adopt. Like once he learns something that is beneficial for the body or the mind or the spirit, like he's in it and he'll say, okay, this is what we should do. This is what I think. And I'm always a little slower. It's interesting. I'm very fast to bring him a book and to absorb ideas. But when it comes to making shifts and changes in my routine, I'm the one that can sometimes hold us back because I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, really? I have to be off my phone an hour before. We have to eat like so early. Are you kidding? I don't want to eat dinner at 5 o'clock or at 6 o'clock. But it was really when we started to, I would say, track our sleep, which Rudi will talk to you about a little bit in terms of how we track our sleep. That changed the game for me. And here's how. I don't wear like an Apple Watch. I had never worn anything to track my sleep. So I didn't fully understand that not all sleep is created equal. And what I mean by that is just because you go to sleep, let's say at midnight and you sleep till 8, those 8 hours aren't going to be quite as powerful as if, let's say, you went to bed at 9 and you slept till 5. And that's because of how our sleep cycles work and our circadian rhythms work. When you get deep sleep, like that's the good stuff. Like that's the gold in terms of sleeping, because when you get the deep sleep and when you're in a state of deep sleep is when your body is rejuvenating itself, when your body is healing itself. And you can tell the difference between when you've gotten deep sleep and you haven't when you wake up based on how you feel. So if you've gotten enough deep sleep, when you wake up, your body will feel refreshed. You will feel energized. You will feel like you have energy. This morning, for instance, we woke up, both Rudi and I, we went downstairs, we were getting ready to meditate. And then after we meditated, I said, hey, how was your sleep score last night? And, we talk about this every single morning. And he was like, I got a 99%. I was like, me too. And I could tell even before speaking to him, just in his overall energy and how he was showing up this morning, I knew he'd gotten a high sleep score. I knew he'd gotten a lot of deep sleep because he seemed energized. He was in a good mood. He was ready. And sure enough, we've had like an incredibly productive day today. And that I attribute a lot of that to the fact that we go to bed early. So deep sleep, you primarily get before midnight. So to all of my night owls out there who can consecutively go to sleep after midnight, you're literally cutting off your ability to get that deep restorative sleep. And it's all habit. We'll say, oh, I'm a night owl. I can't go to sleep early. I can't. It's just a habit. It's just something that you've done long enough, or maybe you were told you were a night owl when you were young and then reinforced that through behavior. But if you actually start to track your sleep, and that's what we're going to really challenge you guys, is to start looking at sleep like through your sleep fitness, just as you would your physical fitness, and you would be tracking your progress. You need to have a way of tracking your sleep to see what quality of sleep are you getting, so that way you can actually start to make some changes to get some improvements, and the reward will be in how you feel. This isn't about just adding another thing to do or another thing to worry about or focus on. This is going to come with gigantic rewards for you. And so because we track, and we can see, oh man, when I ate that Thai meal at 7 o'clock that was laden with garlic and sugar, I can see the direct correlation between low deep sleep, waking up a lot, and an overall low sleep fitness score for the night. And then I feel it the next day. I feel tired. I feel like I need a nap. I feel dehydrated. And so then I'm like, noted, not eating that dish again at 7 o'clock. If I want to eat it, then I should probably push it out, have an early dinner, maybe have it for lunch, or just maybe not eat it at all, because that was bad feedback. So this is really about you just becoming more cognizant and aware and taking accountability for how you want to feel. Because regardless, I mean, you can make every excuse under the sun, but how you feel right now, that's on you. And if you want to change it and you want to be more energized and you want to feel like you're motivated and inspired and not feeling so depressed all the time, because guess what? Lack of sleep and depression, ding, 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 totally correlated. Then this is an area of your life that I highly recommend you deep dive into.
So there's two things that I have done to profoundly shift the quality of the sleep that I'm getting. And before I dive into these two things that are so easy, one is truly the easiest thing you could do for under $50. And then the other one's going to cost you a bit of an investment, but is worth every penny. Before we do that, I just want to caveat, growing up as a child, my mom used to say, you need to get your 8 hours of sleep. And she would say, your best quality sleep is before midnight. And as a kid, I just remember saying, what bullshit? Like, she read that somewhere, and like, where's the proof of that? And if I go to bed,
Mom.
If I go to bed at midnight, like, how is that? Like, how do you even know? Like, how does the body know? What if I change a time zone so the body now knows I'm on? And the brilliance is the body does know. The circadian rhythm resets everywhere you go, everything that you're doing. It might take a day, but it resets. And now that I have the ability to track what is happening in my sleep, to track my HRV levels, which is the heart rate variability, the rest period between beats that tells you how healthy your body is or how your body is recovering. Unbelievable information. If you've never heard of HRV, Google it, research it, and buy something to track your HRV levels, because that's going to tell you how healthy are you, and are you getting sick, or are you right now in optimal performance. And the reason I share that is because I do owe my mom an apology, because, man, it is so accurate. The best quality sleep, and in preparation for this episode, I went in and looked at our device to be able to see, where am I measuring? Almost all of my deep sleep, 90% of my deep sleep, comes between 9:30 and 11:30. And so sometimes I'm reading, our bedtime's 9 o'clock, and man, I'm just in a really good chapter. And so I want to finish it. And then I realize it's 9:30 and I'm still awake. I've already now stolen from the deep sleep that I could have been getting. And then the next morning when I measure it, I might have less deep sleep. And you need to have at least an hour and 20 minutes of deep sleep every single night for optimal behavior. And REM sleep should be around about 2 hours. And so if you look at that as a formula, you cannot get it if you're going to bed at 11 o'clock at night or at midnight. Now, I'm not saying you cannot. It's very, very, very unlikely. For people that say, I go to bed early, but I lie awake and I just cannot fall asleep. For all of you out there, that used to be me. I used to say to people, well, I'm a high performer. I'm a high performance coach. Like, my mind is really busy. It's very active. I have 75,000 thoughts a day. The average human only has 50,000. I mean, like, that's why. And that, again, is just a belief. And it was absolutely grounded on nothing. And the reason my mind had such performance habits or patterns of wanting to be thinking critically at bedtime was twofold. I wasn't following a 3-2-1 rule. A friend of mine had suggested it, was grounded in science, gave me the backing for it, and said, hey man, follow this formula, it's going to change your life. I started following the formula, and lo and behold, it started to change the quality of sleep, which changed my life. But I would still have those periods where I would get into bed at 9 o'clock, and I would say to Anniston the next morning, man, I lay awake until 10:30, 11:30, sometimes 12:30. I would wake up I'd be lying in bed and get up at midnight and take a melatonin because I was like, I have to be functioning tomorrow and I just cannot fall asleep. And then I saw a video on Instagram. And for anyone who knows me, I'm not a huge fan of Instagram because I think most of it's nonsense. But man, do I love to learn stuff on Instagram. And I learned something that it took me 10 seconds to learn, but man, what an unbelievable impact it had on my life. It was a video where somebody was talking about the light bulbs that we have installed in our homes. And so here is hack number 1. All of the light bulbs we had were these new, 20-year light bulbs or 15-year light bulbs that are all LED. They plastic exteriors and inside, you don't have the glass bulb that is what we were accustomed to when we were growing up. But every single one of these light bulbs had really, really high luminescence. And so the lights were actually activating the brain in every one of our bedrooms, side tables, bathroom especially. I got really bright ones so we can see our faces in the mirror. But what they were doing was they were activating serotonin to be dumped into the body at night. Because during the day, you're walking around your house, you've got natural light coming in. But at night, natural light goes down, everything gets dark. What do? You flick on all the lights. And what happens? You're now demonstrating daylight indoors. And so the brain goes, oh, we were supposed to produce melatonin, but now it's daytime because the light is tricking the brain. So it starts to produce serotonin. So it starts to wake you up. And when I changed all of our light bulbs back into 40 watt and 60 watt glass bulbs, I immediately started sleeping. And when I say sleeping, I mean, put my head on the pillow, 30 seconds, I was already out. Now, number 2 is for somebody, and this is the majority of the people I work with. They say to me, I can fall asleep really quickly because I'm exhausted. I work really intensely. I'm a high performer. By the time I hit the pillow, I am ready for sleep. But within an hour to 2 hours, I wake up and then I cannot fall asleep. I lie there, stare at the ceiling. I get up, I go and work, and then I get back into bed. Anniston and I invested in a product, and I want to mention this product to you now. And we're going to endorse the heck out of this product. But I need you to know at the time of recording this episode, we are not an affiliate with this company. We have no affiliation with them in any capacity at this point in time, but we love their product. We love how it has impacted our lives. My one caveat for this product, and I'm going to tell you right now, what I absolutely despise about this product is that when I travel, I can't take it with me.
Oh my gosh, it's ruined us forever because we travel so much. And now when we travel, hopefully they'll come up with a travel version. That's all I'm going to say. That's what I'm manifesting.
So I'll never forget when I went to Anniston, I said, I want to spend $3,000 and it was like $2,600. But I said $3,000 on a king size mattress cover that goes on top of your mattress underneath your sheet. And it sends cooling air, which is hydrogen peroxide and really, really cool distilled water into these little tubes that cool the bed for you. And she said, I'm sorry, you want to spend almost $3,000 on an 8-sleep mattress sheet that's going to cool you? She's like, absolutely not. And so for about 6 months, I spent this, here, look at this information. Look at this research study. Oh, look at this celebrity endorsed this. And I just kept hammering her until eventually she said, it's a 30-day refund. Why don't you try it? You don't like it, we can ship it back. And the reason why I was so obsessed with this is because, Anniston sleeps hot and she likes the room to be cool. So we have to have the fan on and we have to have a light duvet cover and the air temperature's got to be dropped to like frigid temperatures. And I don't run so hot. And I was like, well, I want the room to be normal and I want the mattress to be normal and I want the duvet to be a normal duvet and I don't want the fan on full ball. And so I thought this would be a great way to kind of help us balance the scales. And so what the 8-sleep product does is you put a sheet over your mattress and it sends in this water and hydrogen peroxide into the bed. You don't really notice it. You don't really feel it, except that there is a very cool sensation that is being blown through the mattress into the bottom of your body as you lie down. And the point of this is that it drops your body temperature. To fall asleep, your body has to actually regulate, so drop the temperature by between 4 to 6 degrees. And so as your body temperature drops, you fall asleep. If you are hot, you cannot fall asleep. So your body will not allow you to go to sleep. So the logic here is send in this cool air that you don't really notice except for it's a little chill. And that chill drops your body temperature and you fall asleep. And now that sounds great. But the real benefit comes that when you are fast asleep and your body temperature starts to rise because your body is telling you, oh, your bladder's getting full, you've got to go pee, or you have that habit of waking up at 11 o'clock or midnight. What happens is as your body starts to rise, it's measuring all of your biometrics and it makes micro adjustments to the temperature so that your body temperature drops again. And instead of coming out of a sleep cycle, you go back into another sleep cycle. And so rather than me telling you how phenomenal this product is, I would like Anniston to please share with us how incredible is the 8 Sleep.
I'm surprised you're not saying, I told you so. I mentioned to you before, I'm a little resistant when it comes to some of these hacks, these life hacks and products that are different and that I've never heard of before. But typically Rudi is right about these things. So when we first got it, I was like, wait, so let me get this straight. So you can control your side and I can control my side. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So he set me up on the app and I got to choose the temperature of what I wanted it to be. And the first night I remember first of all, I woke up to go to the bathroom at one point in the night, but I had been like in the deepest sleep ever. And I woke up and I was literally like laying in a ball, like in a fetus position, like holding my arms because I had set it, I think, a little too aggressively cold because I thought, oh, I love a cold room. And then I was able to change that. But what's really interesting to me is even just this past week, for instance, I was in a hotel room in Miami. And I fell asleep quickly, but my gosh, I must have woken up like 10 times, kicking the comforter off, putting it back on, kicking it up. It's like I could not find the right temperature. And at no point do I have to like kick my feet out or remove the comforter. I get to be really cozy in there. And it keeps me in such a nice, deep sleep that oftentimes once I fall asleep, I usually that's around between 9 and 9:30, I will be asleep. I typically don't open my eyes till about 5. And what's even coolest about this is that you can set it to wake you up. And the way that it wakes you up, well, there's 2 ways. One, it can vibrate. So like a nice little low vibration that wakes you up. But my favorite way is it actually you set it to increase the temperature at a certain time. And with that increase of temperature, sure enough, I wake up immediately. And it just goes to show that when you're too warm, because that's what's happening is I'm becoming warm, so I wake up. Well, imagine if that's happening 20 times a night and you're getting too warm in what you're wearing or in the room temperature. It has been such a game changer. And being able to then in the morning track and see, like really, really become aware of what that sleep fitness is. I feel like we've gotten better sleep. There's no question there. And it's fact. Number 2, our immune systems are a lot better. I mean, because sleep really is that good sleep is your best prevention. It's your best prevention against getting sick. I mean, you'll notice if you go a couple of days and you don't get great sleep, oftentimes a cold will come or you'll find that you start getting the sniffles or your body starts to get achy and you come down with the flu. Most of the time, illness is preceded by shitty sleep. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. And we found that too with when we had kids and we were getting irregular sleep, that we were getting sick a lot more. And so I'm a huge fan of the 8 Sleep. Rudi, you were right. I was wrong. And I will never question you again. Okay, I'll probably question you a couple of times, but I will never forget this. How about that?
So if anybody is listening to this episode and they know somebody at Hyatt or Marriott or Conrad or any of these hotels, can we get them to actually offer rooms, even if there is an upcharge?
Hey, double the rate. I don't care.
That has an 8 Sleep, because you're going to want it as much when you're in it. So enough about the promoting the 8 Sleep. Again, we have nothing to do with it. There's no catch. There's no hidden anything. Go onto their website, have a look at it, 30-day refund if you don't like it. I would love it if you would share with us how it's changed your life. The light bulbs have changed your life. The 8 hours of sleep has changed your life. But I really want to ground the closing of this episode into something. You know, we all want to have and be and do and achieve something, and we all want to wake up in the mornings and feel the best that we possibly can. You know, we buy coffees to wake us up so we feel good. We go to the gym so we can feel good. We eat certain foods so we can feel good. There's all these physical acts that we can externally go and do to give us what it is that we need. Or we can simply allow God to flow to us and through us and allow the genius of how our bodies heal, how our bodies recover. And the only thing that we need to do is to create the space. And the biggest shift or change for me in recap was just creating a routine and sticking to the routine so the body knows what to do. Doing that routine every single night in exactly the same way. And I am a high performance guy. So my routine goes even into that when I'm lying and reading and when I put my book down and when I turn the light off and how I say goodnight to Anniston and to which side of my body I roll over in which side of the bed every single time. It is always the same. So my body now knows it's time to go to sleep. We love you so much. We hope you create the routine for yourselves. You deserve it. Your life deserves it. And the quality of sleep is going to dictate the quality of the life that you're going to lead. Have an amazing day. Tag somebody who needs to hear this, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast. Goodbye, everybody. We love you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.